Hey everyone, Nubkeks here. There's been a lot of big update and news videos for HOTS this week, and this is the final one to round the week out. So Blizzard did an AMA on Reddit. They are answering a lot of community questions that people had after all the dev blogs and the news that we got this week about changes to ranked and so on. And I thought it'd be pretty interesting to go through because I know probably a lot of you guys won't have seen this stuff on Twitter, but they actually have 5 highlights here on Twitter of what Blizzard thinks are the biggest news pieces. We've got new reworks, we've got map reworks, we've got quick match changes, we've got an updated role system, all that sort of stuff. So we're going to dive into this. I'll show you all the stuff. We'll break it all down. I'll give you guys my opinion and give Blizzard my feedback. So yeah, let's go. I just thought this was it's cool as well to see that these are the 4 devs that are answering it in person, because you guys might recognize Travis from my BlizzCon interview. Really nice guy. I haven't met the other ones in person. I'm sure they're lovely too. Give me an interview in person and I will confirm, Blizzard. I will confirm. So, first up, Travis McGeehee. I hope I said that right. Probably not. Lead game designer on 3rd bans being added to draft modes. All right, and here we go. We've got the full comment, so let's go through it, and yeah, let's see what we make of this. So, we've been discussing adding 3rd bans since around the middle of last year. The idea to place the 3rd ban in the mid-ban phase came from feedback from both the community and the pros. The initial request for the 3rd ban started coming up because there were now enough heroes in the pool that could fill similar roles so that a counter ban in the mid phase was losing effectiveness. Adding an additional ban at that point would bring back teeth to mid-draft bans. Taking a step back, the core idea is that the mid ban is a strategic ban based on how the draft is unfolding, while the first ban is primarily a meta ban. At the highest levels of play, some strategy comes into play during the first ban phase, as HGC teams have done significant research into their opponents, but for most players, the first ban gets used to remove whatever hero tends to be on top of the meta at that moment. In higher ranks, it gets a bit more variety, as it will sometimes be the hero that's on top of the meta for that battleground, but that's not the typical situation. That being said, sentiment shifts over time. We're open to revisiting this and adding the 3rd ban as a first ban instead. The feeling is that doing so would be mainly addressing a more short-term concern, the release of overpowered heroes, where an additional mid-ban is more interesting long-term. We've been watching the community response, are interested to see if folks still feel strongly about adding it as a first ban after seeing the reasoning behind the mid-ban. So I thought it's really interesting. I can be a pretty cynical dude at times, and I was totally a little suspect that they threw in the we're adding a 3rd ban, but we're thinking about putting it in the mid phase to get a big massive community response of everyone going, wait, no, put it at the start, and then they go, okay, we'll put it at the start, and the community then is super happy. That's what the cynical side of me was saying. Now, I do really appreciate Travis though breaking down the reasoning behind looking at a mid ban as well. In my opinion, I've covered this before. So yes, the first bans are more meta bans, but I think that's quite healthy and encourages, well, look, I mean, if we want to see more off-meta heroes, if we want to see more draft variety, well then, hey, meta bans at the start, even if they're the same bans nearly every single match, that's fine. That's probably the way it's always going to be, right? You're going to ban out the OP heroes because there's always going to be OP heroes. It's just the way it is, or meta heroes. Well, ban out those, and then if more meta bans are removed, well, hey, that means that there's not as many meta heroes to pick, so we're more likely to pick off meta ones. So I think that's a better thing, just in general. That being said, this is the reasoning for the mid ban. Strategic response to the draft. I think that's cool as well. And I mean, I'd even be open to considering, maybe not quite yet, try out this extra ban first. I think it should be at the start to start things off. More meta bans is good. I'm totally open then to having a 4th ban added, a 2nd ban in the mid ban phase, as that more strategic response. I think that would be okay as well. Though I'd like to hold off on that. Let's just add 1 extra ban first, and yeah, then we'll get feedback on that and move forward. So that would be my thoughts on that. One actually extra bit of feedback, Dreadnought brought this up actually on Twitter. I think it's very important. Is that, in fact, I think a lot of pros brought it up as well. A lot of players did too, which is we have an asymmetrical draft. So, okay, team 1 bans, team 2 bans. Then team 1 gets 1 pick, team 2 gets 2 picks, and team 1 gets 2 picks. And then we go into the mid-ban phase. So going into mid-ban phase, the first team got to first ban, first pick, and they've got 3 heroes in total. The second team got 1 double pick, and then they've got 3 heroes still to pick. So it's very asymmetrical. It really varies depending on which side of that draft you're on. And it can, kind of swing wildly in your favor on either side, right? That's just the way it works. Like, there's some heroes that only really work as that final pick. They're only really going to work on one side of the draft, that sort of thing. And one of the feedback that I think makes sense as well is, well, let's change it up. So, okay, first team, let's say there's 2 bans at the top of the draft. Okay, so ban 1, ban 2, ban 2. This team gets to pick 1 hero. Team 2 picks 2 heroes. Team 1 picks 2 heroes. So pretty much the same so far. Then Team 2, they pick 1 hero. And then both teams have 3 heroes each. Then Team 2 bans a hero. Team 1 bans a hero. Team 2 picks. Double pick, single pick, the end. So that way, going into the second ban phase, both teams have chosen 3 heroes each. So they're both on an even footing going into that second ban phase. It's the exact same as I think League of Legends tournaments use. I don't know about League of Legends ranked, but I was watching some League of Legends this morning. Quite enjoy watching the pro stuff there. And that's the way they do it. Now, they've got more bans. They've got, I think, 3 and 2. 3 at the start, 2 in the middle for each team. But that's what they do. That's basically their layout. And I think it's a bit more fair, and it makes both sides of the draft. There's certainly advantages to first pick, and there's more counter picking on the other side. Like, that's absolutely true. But it's a little bit more balanced out. Whereas I think at the moment, the way the pick bans work, it's a little bit extreme. And yeah, like I said, it kind of dictates a lot of strategy. So I kind of like to see that change. So that's a bit extra throwing on there. All right. So that might have been a bit technical. Let's dive into some of the bigger stuff here. Matt Cooper, lead content designer on hero roles. In terms of new roles, well, let's dive into it, actually. Let's dive right into this here, because there's some big stuff here. In terms of new roles, this is something we want to do. Our current design leaning is to keep it to your first 6. We're going to have tanks, bruisers, healers, supports, and melee and ranged assassins. We've always felt that the specialist category is a little weird. In the best cases, a lot of characters like Nazeebo and Zagara fit nicely into the assassin categories. That does leave some oddities, such as the Lost Vikings, potentially fitting into the support category that do provide a lot of indirect benefit for your team. Curious what your thoughts are on this, and the rest of the community's thoughts surrounding placing these odd heroes into more defined categories. Come back to that. In terms of the timeline for this, it's something we want to do. We think it's correct for the game moving forward. Currently, our priority is around improving the matchmaking and ranked experiences, though, so this will be on hold for a little while longer. And then he also touches on quests. Many years back, we had a design very similar to this, most likely internal only. We ultimately moved away from it. So I think this is a suggestion that quests would be, like, do 10,000 damage on Genji, or, do 50,000 healing on whatever sort of character, see that sort of thing. I need another 10k healing. We ultimately moved away from these sort of quests as they encouraged players to farm out matches they'd already won. I need another 10k healing to finish my quest, don't end the match. We also tried some quests that just land X hooks, but that also encouraged weird player behavior. Ultimately, we stuck with a few simple quests of essentially play the game, but with different requirements. We'd love to update the quest system in the future. Maybe we can explore some ideas here that could help teach players as you suggest. And then there's also stuff about more info about bosses, scaling, timings, all that sort of stuff. So they're talking about how that will become available somewhere, which is nice. So thoughts on this? I actually address the final point first. I'd love to see detailed info in the game, and I'd actually like to see this on a much broader level in general, not just on bosses and things like that. I'd love to have like an info, a learning, or encyclopedia kind of tab within the game where you can go and you can check all of those details, all of the numerical values, all of the info. So everything is there in game. You can go and find it. You can look it up and you can figure out exactly how it works. I think that'd be a great idea. And kind of building on a similar note, I'd like to see vastly improved like end game stats. So for example, I was talking about this on my stream yesterday. One thing I would love to see is, well, okay, in this game, like Chromie, we had one game where Chromie like finished her quest in like 6 minutes. It's like, geez, what the hell's going on? I'd love to have like that info at the end of the game. Like, okay, Chromie did this much damage. This much of her damage was from her Q. This much was from her W. This is how many times her time trap hit. How long people were disabled for. Like on her Q damage, this is a breakdown of who took that damage. Okay, here's like a time graph. These are when her Q's hits. You know, I'd love all that. Like the more info we can get, the better. I think again that would be really helpful for players. Something that you can, you know, when you really want to improve, when you sit down and say, I want to get better at the game, you can sit down and go, okay, break it down. Oh, I took loads of damage from Chromie. Timeline. Oh, I took loads of damage in the early game. Oh yeah, look at this. I'm getting hit by Chromie skill shots a lot in the first 2 minutes when I'm kind of focused on other stuff. I'm going to learn from that. I'm going to improve. I think that'd be excellent. In terms of quests, I mean, I guess I'm down for that. I don't actually honestly really have much of an opinion on this. Quests or something that I simply ignore. So like I don't need any golds because I have all the heroes. You know, and the quests just get finished automatically from playing ranked. So I don't even notice them. I'm curious what you guys think about quests because I don't actually have any opinion on this yet. Now, in terms of the roles, this is a huge deal. And I think, yes, finally, I really wish this is something that came an awful lot sooner. I think anyone who's played the game for any decent amount of time will agree the role system is pretty bad. You look at the warrior category and you've got like a main tank like Muradin alongside a solo laner like Sonya, alongside like a damage character like Zarya, and they're all clumped together in warrior though. How confusing is that for a new player? Or the support role, another disaster. You've got a main healer like Malfurion alongside, you know, a support character like Tassadar alongside someone who's basically really an assassin like Tyrande. It's a total hodgepodge. It's a total mess. So I'm hugely on board with this stuff, making it much more clear. Tanks, you know, those frontliners, very hard to kill, bring crowd control and engagement, fantastic. Bruisers, okay, they're tough, they're hard to kill, but more focus on damage, less crowd control. So like tank, you know, we're talking Muradin, ETC, that sort of thing. Bruisers, we're talking, you know, Sonya, Blaze, that sort of thing. Healers, obviously your main healers. Supports then, heroes like Tassadar, Medivh, Zarya, I guess, as well. Probably Tyrande. And then apparently it could be pretty weird with Lost Vikings, you know, Abathur. Heroes that maybe give their team a bit of extra protection, like shielding, do a good bit of damage, maybe do a little bit of different stuff. But yeah, they're not main healers. And then you've got melee and ranged damage dealers, effectively. I think that's a nice little way to break it down. I think there is the problem with the specialist category in that the actual, I'd say, specialists, the really weird heroes, so like Abathur, Murky, and Lost Vikings, like they're the only ones that are really weird that I can think of off the top of my head. The other ones can fit in, like Medivh fits nicely into support, you know, Zul fits nicely into melee assassin, Zagara, Hammer, Nazebo, they all fit pretty nicely into ranged assassins. Honestly, Sylvanas ranged assassin. You know, they're not really that different, but Lost Vikings, Abathur, and Murky are pretty weird. And it's like, where do they fit in? I guess you make them fit into these roles. They're not going to fit perfectly, but I guess that's okay. You know, it's okay to have the odd, really weird hero here or there. I think this makes it a lot clearer going forwards with hero reworks, with balanced decisions as well. That okay, we're balancing heroes and designing heroes to fit into these roles, and I think that's great. I think that makes things a lot more clear, and I'm a fan of that. I think that's a good idea. I think it will make it much easier to balance the meta. It makes it much clearer to new players. It makes it much clearer to existing players, and it also makes it more intuitive to set up an interesting team comp. You know, it's not like, oh, double specialist we lose, or you know, that sort of thing. But it's more like, okay, how can we slot these different ones together? And then, you know, going deeper then when you're more experienced with the game, okay, how do we actually fit the individual heroes together? We've moved a little bit beyond the role system. I think that's just fine. So yeah, there we go. That's pretty big stuff there. New role system. I'm curious what you guys think of that. I like I said, I think I'm pretty much in full support of it, and I really wish we'd had a role rework a lot sooner. It's something that I've been in favor of for a long, long time, as you guys know. I think the role system doesn't do any favors. Hey, there it is. Okay, lead system designer Joe Pipiori on quick match changes. Some big stuff here for you guys that play quick match. Quick match has been a hot topic in the community lately. What's your take on it? Quick match is still our most popular game mode in Heroes of the Storm by far. We don't think the right move is to shunt quick match aside. We'd rather improve upon it. The problem we see is that team compositions rarely feel balanced or competitive. In the blog post we posted yesterday, we discussed making a shift away, focusing on getting players into shift away from focusing on players getting into matches quickly, and instead to focus more on getting players into better quality matches. That is absolutely applicable to Quick Match and serves as the plan of action here. The first improvement we're going to make is to strictly enforce role compositions for the matchmaker. A team will not be constructed without a balanced team composition on its own. This means that assassins or specialists may have potentially longer queue times, while some tank-capable warriors and healers may have shorter ones. And I think this also illustrates the problem with the role system, doesn't it? We got to qualify tank-capable warriors, But yeah, I think that's totally fine. I think what they were talking about was, I'm not sure exactly where they said it, but they're saying, okay, every team will have a tank, every team will have a healer, and then probably every team will have a ranged assassin, and then they'll have 2 slots which are flexible, which can be a bruiser, it could be a melee assassin, another ranged assassin, a support hero. It could be anything like that. It could be a second tank, could be a second potentially a second healer. I don't know that the second healer would work as well, but they try to get rid of that at the same time. But yeah, I think that's fine even if it does come in occasionally. So yeah, I'm, as you guys probably know as well, I'm massively in favor of this. I've said it for a long time. I think it becomes very difficult it must be very difficult to balance the game, because you have to, at the moment, because you're balancing the game around professional play, which is a huge part of your marketing, which is broadcast on Twitch. It's your big tournaments that you're hosting and that Blizzard's investing a lot of money into in terms of production, in terms of prize pools, salaries for the teams, all that sort of stuff. You have to balance around that, which has a much stricter meta around tanks and healers, and the meta if you've watched pro play. And similarly in Hero League, a very similar meta. But then you've also got Quick Match, where before Blizzard have had this philosophy of, well, anything goes, and we'll have any heroes match up against any other heroes, really, and any team comp is viable. And how do you balance a hero so that they're not super frustrating to play against in a full assassin composition? It might be balanced in pro play, but be really imbalanced in that sort of situation. So you got heroes like, let's say, Genji, who is just going to jumps around and finishes off assassins, and in 5 assassins versus 5 assassins, that's very annoying. Whereas when you've got a support like Malfurion who's healing you up, he's doing AoE silences, locking him down, or you've got tanks like Diablo who'll lock him down with CC, at least you got some more counterplay there. So I think it's much better for the game that they do this. I also think it makes the jump from Quick Match into Hero League much smoother as well, so it improves the situation with that game mode. It might lead to slightly longer queue times for people in Quick Match, but I don't think it should be all that much longer. I think you can introduce some sort of rewards for people to play, like if there's not many tanks queued up, hey, give a little bit of a bonus to people to play tanks for, an hour or something like that. Hey, there you go, awesome. Great stuff. And yeah, I think it should just make the game more enjoyable. Each team will have a healer, each team will have a tank. Fantastic, great stuff. That just seems like it'd be better for everyone. They can balance the game better. It just streamlines the process. So I'm massively in favor of that. And yeah, the 10 out of 10, I think that's a really good idea. And hey, if you want to build some wacky compositions, you can still get together with friends and you can do it. Or you can try those out in ranked mode, with cooperation with your team or team league. I think that's cool too. So yeah, I'm a fan of that. And I'm sure there'll be the odd game as well where you just get random stuff put together, but that's fine too. Oh, before we jump there, let's jump up here. Lead content designer Matt Cooper on Battleground updates. Thanks for the questions. Okay, there's actually a few things going on here. So talking about support viability, I'd say we want every healer to be viable in at least some situations as a solo healer. Some healers will of course be better at preventing sustained damage, burst damage, or even keeping themselves safe. But overall, yes, ideally there isn't a healer you feel like you could never pick without another full-on healer. I think that's great. I think that's good. And then of course that also again illustrates the problem with the support role, where you've got heroes like Tassadar or Tyrande in there who obviously cannot fulfill that position in 99% of the games that they're in. Map update then. The map team is currently working on revising a number of our existing maps. The big focuses right now include large updates to Hanamura and Garden of Terror. We also have some smaller updates planned for a few maps, but these are more akin to balance patches. Brax's Holdout, in this example, we're planning some small changes to address how snowbally that map can feel. We'd love to make larger changes to Haunted Mines and Blackheart's Bay, but those are both further off. Is that a sad face? I think it's a sad face. But yeah, I think this is great news. So, okay, obviously they're working on Hanamura. I'm really excited to have that back. I just think even visually it was a beautiful map. And I thought the payload thing was interesting. I didn't hate the Hanamura as much as a lot of people did, but I understand that a lot of people did. So yeah, excited to see Hanamura come back. Gardens of Terror, excited to hear that's going to have a big update as well. Definitely, one of the first maps added to the game, and doesn't feel fantastic. There's definitely some issues with that one, with the plants themselves. Sometimes it can lead to really long games, or sometimes really fast games. It can feel super random sometimes. Or you can just have plants fighting each other, which feels silly too, a little bit anyway. So yeah, no info on what the changes are, but excited to see some of these changes come through. Also, I'm personally very excited to hear Brax's Holdouts getting some changes. I don't know what they're going to do to make it better, but as you guys know, if you've been watching my streams, I actually think we've got a really nice map pool and ranked at the moment. It's pretty much all the best maps in the game. Brax's Holdout, in my opinion, being the worst of those. And yeah, I think the problem with Brax is that it's snowbally. In comparison to Dragonshire, I think they're very comparable because it's both like control 2 points on top and bottom. But whereas in Dragonshire, there's a mid lane, and there's a lot more rotating between the lanes then. The Merc camps are more interactive, I think, because of that rotation as well. And because in Dragonshire, you have to control both points and control mid lane as well, there's a lot of opportunities for counterplay. Like, okay, we'll delay the capture in mid. And then if they send heroes to try cap mid, we can send heroes to try take bottom back. There's a lot. I love Dragonshire. There's a lot of fun strategy on how you move, because you have to control both points, then capture middle. And it's like, if you don't pull it off, you don't get anything. You have to fully do that. Basically control all 3 lanes to get the Dragon Knight. And it's not even overwhelmingly powerful. The Dragon Knight's strong, but it's definitely defendable. Whereas Braxis, the big problem with Braxis is that you have the 2 points, but once you capture those points, you start getting charged right away. There's none of this mid lane stuff. And also because there's no mid lane, there's like much less rotations. A rotation to top is a much bigger investment, for example. And the objective is very powerful. So typically on Braxis, I think the problem for me anyway is that it comes down to the draft really a lot of the time. Well, the enemy team we drafted a better composition than the enemy team, or they drafted a better one than us. Well, we drafted a better one. We've got an advantage in the lane, so we're winning the lanes, which means we control the points. We get a big Zerg Swarm. Zerg Swarm goes down, smashes their buildings. We're ahead in XP. Then it's even easier for us to control the points. We get more Zerg waves, we smash their buildings. They don't have any buildings to go back to. It's easier again for us to control these points and you've got the boss in the middle. And the boss in the middle is, again, I think it's very just snowbally boss, right? You only take that boss when you've killed everyone on the enemy team. It's literally just there to snowball the map more, which works on a map like Tomb of the Spider Queen, where the boss is really a snowball tool, but I think that works. Because Tomb of the Spider Queen, the objective isn't that strong, but on Braxis, I think it feels pretty bad. So yeah, I think in my opinion, it's a pretty bad map, actually. The more I talk about it, the more I hate it. You guys will know that from the stream, but yeah, there you go. And excited to see some changes to Haunted Mines and Blackhearts as well, but those are further off, so yeah, definitely no details on what the changes are going to be there. So that's maps. Then let's go through this stuff real quick, and then on to the last big main point, last big main news. Anna, the rework was intended to help address the idea that she couldn't solo heal because she had no easy way to heal herself back up. I know internally we played with a wide range of values on this, even had a playtest or two where she could out-heal everyone in the game because her self-healing was way too high. Anna's overall win rate is a little on the low side, so we have room to bring her up a little bit. I'm hoping we can accomplish what you're looking for via tuning though, or potentially some slight mechanic tweaks. I will say we love Anna as a healer because of how much skill there goes into doing her healing well. And I agree with this. I think that Anna is a wonderful hero. I was actually reflecting on this, guys. And you viewers that play Overwatch as well can give me more info on this. But my understanding is that at the moment in Overwatch, the meta on which the game is, to my understanding, designed around is 2 tanks, 2 damage, and 2 healers. And I think that might actually lead to some difficulties in bringing those heroes into Heroes of the Storm. So, for example, Zarya, who functions as a tank in Overwatch, is part of a double tank composition, and where like crowd control isn't as big of a deal, coming over as a warrior to Heroes of the Storm, well, we just saw a whole bunch of problems, right? We touched on that in the role stuff. She doesn't fit into like a tank slot. She's very different. Or then Ana, bringing Ana over to Heroes of the Storm, well, she really struggles as a solo healer because she's really bad at healing herself, and that's really important in Heroes of the Storm, whereas it's a double healer comp in Overwatch. I don't know if that's like a simplistic take on it, but it was just something that kind of struck me here. But I really do love Ana. I think her design is really fun. I'm sure they could make it work with tuning. I mean, another option that was thrown around a lot was that she could use her grenade on herself for a large self heal. So it's either, use it on yourself or something else. I mean, you could have something like you got a large self heal on like a number 1 button every 30 seconds or 40 or 1 minute, but it puts your Q on a longer cooldown. So choose between healing yourself or healing your allies. I don't know what exactly they could do, but it would be nice to see Ana come back because I think she's a really fun hero, but she's just not very good right now. Medivh. Overall, we consider the rework a success. It's interesting to see how much more popular he is now, which is a great thing. But it does mean that players who feel he's frustrating to play against will see him more often now. With our rework, we did attempt to reduce some of the frustrating aspects of his kit. There's more downtime between using portals and Force of Will, which ideally gives the enemy team more options for counterplay. It's an area we could easily explore and try to do more with. Yeah, I thought the Medivh rework on the whole was a good success. I think Arcane Explosion, Circle of Protection was super busted and dumb, but at least they started addressing that with balance patches, so that's good. But yeah, I like that idea, and I have to say I like what Blizzard has been doing with their recent reworks to Medivh and Tracer and Varian all stand out. These heroes that had, in certain circumstances, these really uncounterable playstyle. So Tracer being super mobile and having super burst damage. Okay, we reduced that mobility, we reduced the burst damage, gave her a bit more sustained damage, a bit more health. And obviously they've been tweaking that. Medivh, again, same thing. Okay, less of these protected shields being spammed, much bigger windows for counterplay, less portals all the time, bigger windows for counterplay. But, up his damage, his base stats a little bit, give him some different, better talents. I think that's great too. Or again with, who's the other hero I mentioned? Oh yeah, Varian. Instead of going from 2 or 3 charges of 2 seconds or whatever protected in a row, all right, getting rid of that whole protected thing, but then changing how his base kit works. Now, the Varian rework has problems with the other builds, but certainly with Taunt build, I'm talking about more so here. I think it was a huge success with Taunt build. He feels much more dynamic now. So I really like this sort of normalization that Blizzard have been doing with these recent reworks, getting these really overwhelming strengths or kind of annoying strengths of some heroes and toning them down, but giving them strengths in other areas. Normalization is making it a bit smoother. Touching on that, frustrating heroes. Chromie and Genji are both being looked at internally. Genji has some small stuff will be coming out really soon, similar to Tracer. Chromie is something we're evaluating a lot more internally. We've done a number of changes, such as reducing the range of her Q and W abilities, so she'd have to be within enemy vision range. You could see it coming, try to dodge. Showing the splat of her W ability, and so on. Honestly, it feels a little bit better internally. We might need to do more to really succeed here. Chromie is further off as a result. I don't think we view Diablo or Garrosh as that frustrating to play against. The recent change to Garrosh, where his Q no longer pulls enemies in, has helped a lot. In general, every character is going to have some level of bullshit they can bring. It's important you feel like you have counterplay options and ways to outplay your opponent. So I disagree a bit on Diablo and Garrosh. At the moment, I think Diablo's not in the best state because he's basically only got one build at higher levels of play. He's totally cookie cutter. And he does an obnoxious amount of damage as well when it works well. So I would like to see some fairly large changes to Diablo to, again, tone down that one build and open up some different potential playstyles for him. But yeah, I don't think he's too terrible, but I don't think he's perfect either. Garrosh is obviously frustrating. I think that's an issue. I think one issue at the moment is that supports have a very, very tough time saving people from Garrosh. Like Medivh is good at the moment because he does. He can give them a shield, drop a portal, they can get back to safety. But a lot of other supports can't do anything. It's like, uh-oh, they're out of my healing range. Well, rest in pieces, I guess. So yeah, that's definitely a concern. Obviously, cleanse being removed from the game opens up some of that CC stuff and displacement stuff being frustrating. That opens it up as a concern. Glad to see they're looking at Chromie, because Chromie is quite annoying. Genji doesn't bother me all that much. I think Genji's pretty balanced. In my opinion, a lot of the frustration against Genji comes from just a failure to understand the game, because you look at, like, especially lower leagues, even high leagues, he's got a pretty bad win rate overall. So yeah, I don't know, like, if the hero's not being that useful, or he's even losing a lot more games than he's winning, I don't know, I guess it can still be annoying. I don't find him that bad though. Personally, for example, I found like Hanzo W build completely breaking Cursed Hollow and Battlefield of Eternity, basically any map with a boss, because he does just obnoxious amounts of boss damage. Thought that was a lot more broken because it just ruined the strategy of the game. But anyway, that's kind of my thoughts on that one. Then finally, not this one. Hey, Raynor's getting a rework. Hey, finally, Raynor is getting a rework. Bonjour, player from France. I'll try and tackle some of the gameplay related questions. So first of all, summons. Not currently looking at summons as a whole. We'll likely try and tackle this on a case-by-case basis. An ability that's really high impact and frustrating at lower levels of play, but not useful for higher levels of play, is a bit of a red flag for us. 100% agree. That being said, and then likewise, something that's useless at lower levels of play, but super frustrating at high levels of play, that's also a red flag. And it's a big challenge. I think it's a massive design challenge to have a game that's fair and balanced at all levels of play. That's really hard. So I'm also balanced at all levels of ranked play and chaotic quick match play. Yeah, good luck, Blizzard. I'm glad that you're simplifying it for yourselves. That being said, this is the kind of nature of a summoned unit. In some ways, you can think of a summoned unit like an ability with a huge variance in its damage potential. This largely depends on how the enemy team plays against it. Obviously, higher level players can downplay the value of these summoned units much more easily. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty interesting. It's not something I've hugely thought of at the moment, but yeah, again, kind of curious to come back to this and curious what your thoughts are. Raynor, though, is getting a rework. It's not the next set of reworks that'll be coming out, but we're actively working on it. Overall, we wanted to keep the feel and playstyle of Raynor, keeping him simple to play, but we've made a number of changes to modernize his base abilities and introduce a lot of new talents. The team is super excited to share more with you guys on this soon in the next few months. So it sounds like it's quite a ways away. But yeah, I think that'll be nice. Obviously, Raynor is extremely dated. Like, his trait is it's a complete joke. It's like, Raynor's got slightly longer range. Not as much as Hanzo, who doesn't have a trait. He just has longer range. But your whole trait is this, and it's, yeah. You can see a little bit further as well. Nice. Yeah, so, and then his talents are a mess. But excited to see Raynor rework whenever it comes out. I think that'd be quite nice. I quite like the basic attack based heroes. I think they're quite fun, so seeing some more of those would be quite nice. Speaking of Hammer, I think we added some fun new stuff to Hammer's kit, allowing her to access some of her key defining talents earlier on. Haven't seen a ton of Hammer play. She's also a character that probably shouldn't be core to the meta. I agree. We don't currently have more plans for Hammer. We're likely to revisit her again in the future. Again, I don't have a massive issue with Hammer. I think she's super niche, and to be honest, I think that's okay. I think that's okay. She's a pretty unique hero. Yeah, you don't really want her to be in every single game because she's so unique. And it's okay to have heroes like that are going to be great, 1 out of 50 or 1 out of 100 games. It's like, oh, this is a great game for this hero, but not in every single game. I think that's fine too. So I don't have a massive issue with that. So there you go, guys. That is some of the big news from the AMA. Raynor reworks, map reworks to Hanamura. I mean, just look at that. It just looks so good. Hanamura's beautiful map. Gardens of Terror. Not so beautiful Gardens of Terror, but, we still like you, I guess, maybe. Quick match. Gonna strictly enforce role compositions for the matchmaker. Forcing in balanced teams with a tank and a healer. Speaking of roles, tanking and healing and such, we're gonna have a new role system. Looking like it's gonna be tank, bruiser, healer, support, melee, and ranged assassins. And then, yeah, discussions about adding that ban into ranked play. So there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope I didn't talk too much, but yeah, a bit of a podcast style one. I've had a lot of these this week and I hope you enjoyed them. I'll see you next time. Well, I'll see you on stream. I'll see you for more videos as always. Yeah, whenever there's more news, I'll cover that too. Actually, in fact, Monday should be PTR with Deckard Kane, so I'll see you for that. Talk to you guys soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.